One of the main things facing the new president, whoever it ends up being, is that without taking on and making some tough decisions about defense spending, not just the war, but defense spending separate from the war, you can have very little flexibility in the budget for doing any new things. You have very little room to maneuver for doing anything else in terms of education, healthcare, or even energy. I mean, just one point, the Department of Defense currently spends about $75 billion every year on research and development. Well, that goes all towards military projects. That's larger than the defense budget of the United Kingdom by about 40%, just that. Well, if you're using all that research and development money for military projects, you clearly aren't achieving energy independence through that same research. That's money that can't be used for those kind of things. Ever since the end of the Cold War, and even after 9/11, the United States has been part of a set of world powers, allies, Great Britain, France, Germany, Australia, Japan. When you add all their military spending together, constitute well over 80% of all military spending in the world. And what that means is, yes, there are dangers like Al-Qaeda, there are dangers with terrorism, but again, compared to the Cold War, compared to almost any time in recent American history, the amount of power that's in the hands of a group of allies who would never fight each other and who are capable of meeting all these dangers quite easily, it's never been as clear that we're in some ways safer than we've ever been. So I think the argument that somehow we live in the world's so dangerous that it requires the United States to outspend the rest of the world combined is ludicrous. Burden sharing involves maybe some allies spending a little bit more money on defense, but also the distribution of responsibilities, that is, making this a real collective security effort such that, instead of the United States deciding to go to war on its own, we wouldn't go to war unless it was clear that our allies were with us. And that's in some ways the more important part of burden sharing. As it is now, a lot of these allies can sort of free ride on the United States, not by taking advantage of us in the sense that somehow, they're just allowing us to spend more. We willingly say we will spend as much or more than it takes, and we don't need anyone's help. The American taxpayer is underwriting this kind of subsidization of these allies at its own expense. A new president can come in and in his head or her head, he or she might be going, well, we really need to bring down defense spending. But politically, that's almost impossible to do. And part of the problem is the wars. Again, as the wars ratchet down, there'll be a lot of pressure to keep sort of regular defense spending where it is or be seen as being weak on defense. So in some ways, I think a president would have difficulty coming in and just persuading Americans based on the facts that we've been spending way too much in defense. We can bring it down now.